On Guadalcanal in 1942, a Marine captured a Japanese grenade launcher. The curved baseplate looked like it was designed to rest against a thigh. Americans called it the knee mortar. The Marine braced it against his leg and pulled the trigger. The recoil shattered his femur. The 1943 United States Army Manual on Japanese Weapons documented this incident. By late 1944, all Allied material on the weapon carried the same warning in large print. This weapon must not be fired from the thigh. But the injuries kept happening. American soldiers were breaking their own legs with a captured Japanese weapon. They could not figure out why. The answer was a translation error that would haunt United States forces throughout the Pacific War. The gap. In the 1920s, the Imperial Japanese Army identified a problem. Hand grenades could be thrown about 30 meters. Mortars were effective at 500 meters and beyond. But what about the space in between? In jungle warfare, trench combat, and urban fighting, this gap was critical. Enemies were often too far to throw a grenade, but too close for mortar support. The Japanese army began developing weapons specifically for this range, from 30 to 200 meters. In 1921, they introduced the Type 10 grenade discharger. It was a simple, smooth-bore tube that could lob the standard Type 91 fragmentation grenade about 75 meters. It worked, but the Army wanted more range and accuracy. In 1929, they adopted an improved version, the Type 89 heavy grenade discharger. The weapon. The Type 89 was deceptively simple. A rifled steel barrel, 10 inches long, a trigger housing, a range adjustment mechanism, a curved baseplate. Total weight was 10 pounds 6 ounces. Total length was 24 inches. The entire weapon could be carried in a cloth and leather case with a shoulder sling. One soldier could transport it fully assembled, ready for immediate action. The rifled barrel was the key innovation. Previous grenade dischargers used smooth tubes with fin-stabilized ammunition. The Type 89's projectile engaged the rifling with a copper band at the base, spinning the shell for improved accuracy. The weapon fired two types of ammunition. The Type 91 fragmentation grenade weighed 19 ounces. When adapted for the discharger, it was fitted with a propellant base and a 7 to 8 second time fuse. The fuse ignited during launch, not on impact. The Type 89 50mm shell weighed nearly 2 pounds. It was high explosive and it detonated on impact. It was significantly more destructive than the grenade. Range adjustment worked differently than conventional mortars. The barrel was fixed at 45 degrees, as verified by a bubble level. Instead of changing the angle, the gunner turned a dial that moved the firing pin assembly up and down, altering the volume of the gas chamber. More chamber space meant lower pressure and shorter range. Less space meant higher pressure and longer range. Maximum range was 732 yards with the high explosive shell. Effective range was 131 yards. The system allowed Japanese soldiers to adjust fire onto multiple targets through a single small clearing in the jungle canopy. They did not need to reposition the weapon. They just turned the dial. The deployment. The Imperial Japanese Army issued the Type 89 extensively. There were 3 or 4 grenade dischargers per rifle platoon. A single infantry company could field up to 12 of them. Japan produced approximately 120,000 Type 89 grenade dischargers. The average infantry regiment of 3,843 men received 108 weapons. That was roughly 1 for every 36 troops. Each discharger had 2 ammunition carriers assigned to support it. Gunners carried 8 high explosive rounds in cloth pouches on their waist belt, supported by web suspenders. Rate of fire was high. An experienced gunner could launch 25 rounds per minute. The Type 89, First saw service in China and Manchuria during the Second Sino-Japanese War. It proved effective against Chinese positions. Japanese Navy paratroopers carried special containers for the Type 89 clipped to their harnesses. They could provide fire support immediately upon landing. By the time Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, the grenade discharger was fully integrated into infantry doctrine. Every Japanese soldier knew its capabilities. American forces would learn them the hard way. When US Marines landed on Guadalcanal in August 1942, they encountered the Type 89 almost immediately. Allied troops quickly learned to hit the ground when they heard its distinctive poppy. The sound would haunt American soldiers throughout the Pacific, and it is one we will explore more in future videos. It carried over 200 yards. Anyone still standing when the shell landed was likely to become a casualty. The weapon needed a name. Japanese soldiers called it juteki. The official designation translated to heavy grenade discharger. But American troops noticed something else. Japanese soldiers carried the weapon strapped to their leg while on the march. The curved baseplate rested against the thigh, the barrel pointing down. The Japanese word for this carrying position referenced the leg, specifically the ankle area where the weapon was secured. Allied translators made an error. They translated the term as knee-mortar. The name stuck, and it created a deadly misconception. American soldiers looked at the curved baseplate. It appeared designed to cup against a thigh. The knee-mortar designation seemed to confirm this. Some tried firing captured weapons this way. The Type 89 had heavy recoil. Its rifled barrel that made it accurate also produced significant kickback. A Marine on Guadalcanal braced the baseplate against his thigh and fired. The recoil shattered his femur. He was not the last. The warning. The injuries accumulated. Broken thigh bones, severe bruising, soldiers hospitalized by their own captured weapons. By 1943, the United States Army published technical manuals specifically addressing the issue. By late 1944, all Allied descriptive material on the grenade launcher carried the same warning in large print. This weapon must not be fired from the thigh. Lieutenant Colonel Merritt Red Mike Edson, commander of the 1st Marine Raider Battalion, stated it plainly after Guadalcanal. He said the name knee-mortar is a misnomer. It is not fired from the knee. One of his men tried this and broke his leg. The correct firing position was simple. The curved baseplate was designed to be pressed against the ground, a log or a tree trunk. The gunner's forward foot could steady the weapon. The barrel pointed skyward at 45 degrees. The curve of the baseplate matched the angle, allowing it to dig into soil or sand for stability. It was never meant to contact human flesh. Japanese training manuals made this clear, but they were written in Japanese. American soldiers who captured the weapons often had no idea how to use them properly. The effectiveness. Despite the self-inflicted injuries, American forces came to respect the Type 89. Colonel Edson, after the Battle of Edson's Ridge in September 1942, critically evaluated the weapon and insisted American forces badly needed an equivalent. His assessment noted several advantages. A single soldier could carry the weapon and 10 rounds with no difficulty, making it highly practical. It had a high rate of fire. It gave platoon commanders immediate access to indirect fire support without calling for heavier weapons, delivering fire where they needed it fast. The Type 89 used the same grenade as standard infantry, simplifying logistics. The closest American equivalent was the 60mm M2 mortar. It fired a more powerful projectile, but it was significantly heavier, required a bipod and base plate, and took longer to deploy. The Japanese weapon could be firing within seconds of contact. The American mortar required setup time. American commanders estimated the Type 89 and similar weapons caused 40% of US battle casualties in the Pacific theater. The small pop that preceded incoming rounds became one of the most feared sounds of the war. The legacy. The Type 89 served throughout World War II. Burma, China, the Philippines, Iwo Jima, Okinawa. Wherever Japanese infantry fought, the grenade discharger provided close fire support. After the war, the concept influenced Western weapons development. The US M79 grenade launcher, introduced in 1961, addressed the same tactical gap the Japanese had identified 40 years earlier. Modern commando mortars like the British L9A1 and South African M4 use similar principles. Lightweight, portable, capable of immediate deployment without complex setup. The Type 89's most lasting impact may have been the tactical lesson it taught. Infantry needed organic firepower between grenades and mortars. The Japanese figured this out first. The truth: the knee mortar was never meant to be fired from the knee. A translation error gave it a misleading name. American soldiers trying to use captured weapons paid for this error with broken bones. The Type 89 was a 10-pound weapon that outperformed systems twice its weight. 120,000 were produced, 108 per regiment, 25 rounds per minute. Allied forces learned to fear its distinctive sound. Colonel Edson, who won the Medal of Honor on Guadalcanal, wanted one for American troops. He never got it. The US military would not field an equivalent for another 19 years. The Japanese had solved a tactical problem that American planners had not recognized, and American soldiers kept breaking their own legs trying to figure out how.